Okay, so today we had decided we're going to talk about closing. So I've got a lot of stuff here for you guys, and I think this will be really, really helpful when you're talking to your new patients. And here's the big thing is that when it comes to closing, and this is not just chiropractic stuff, this is typical sales stuff, is that salespeople, chiropractors, for example, that take closing as an event, take closing as an event always fail. Okay. So let's understand closing is a process. So here's the big thing is that so closing is a process. So this is really stuff to train on with your team. So the big thing is that we need to talk about this very, very regularly when it comes to our team. And it starts right from the very first phone call. In fact, it starts from knowing where your leads are coming from. Are they coming from referrals? Are they coming from your advertising? Are they coming from an event that you had? And having the understanding of how warm are those leads. So this is really, really, really important. So obviously, we're going to maximize our opportunities. Chiropractic new patient flow is a numbers game. If we can get really good at closing our people and going through our system so that they, come in prepared, they know exactly what to expect. They go through our day one or day two or day three, they sit through our doctor's report. If we can get really good at the delivery of that system, obviously our percentages are going to go up. It's rare that somebody would be 100% over the long term. We might have a good week, we might have a good month, but it's rare that you would consistently be at 100% for the long term. But we strive to be as close to that as possible. But here are some things that are going to help you get to that point. So first of all, we're going to maximize the opportunities. So if we're closing 50% of people, like if 50% of our new patients that actually come in the door, the day ones, sign up for care plans, okay, that's not a bad start. If we can get that up to 60, 70, 80, or even higher percentage, obviously that's good. So the more numbers that we have, the more new patients we're going to end up signing on to care plans in our office, the more lives we're going to transform, the more obviously the more people we're going to see, the more collections we're going to have, everything falls into place. But how does that work? Well, so obviously it's a numbers game. We want to try to get to as many people as possible. So first of all, setting up your events to make sure that you're not being reactive in your practice that, oh my gosh, my numbers are down, my collections are down. We now better do some more advertising. We now better set up more lunch and learns. We now better have a makeover or something. If we're thinking reactionary, we're failing. The practice is failing. We always have to be proactive, setting up the events in advance, in fact, well in advance. And I know many of you are really good at that. Justine's fantastic at that. She looks 6 months, 8 months, a year in advance for all those events. I mean, she's actually, sending out messages, booking her calendar for 2025 now because she wants to make sure that her calendar is booked so she can plan her life around that. So these are things we got to start thinking about. So when we're training with our staff, is that the close starts from the very first contact. And there's some very effective questions that you can train with your team to start asking the potential leads or potential new patients before they come in your door. So first of all, like I said, remembering or realizing where they came from. So to train with your staff and actually have them have a conversation of how the problem is affecting that person's life on the phone before they come in is the start of good closings. So if I'm the front desk staff, somebody calls me or I get in touch with a lead that comes from my ad or comes from a referral or whatever that is, I want to inquire about why they're calling. I want to know about what's going on. So do they have lower back pain? And I'm going to ask them all kinds of questions about not necessarily the medical terminology of that lower back pain or where it is and how long it's been there. I'm going to ask them how it's affecting their life. What is this stopping you from doing? And if you can get your staff asking that on the phone, what you're doing is you're conjuring up these notions in the person's mind about, you're literally reminding them of how this pain is affecting them and all of the things that they can't do as a result of that. So you're confirming that person's decision to call your office and then take the step. Here's the big thing. Remember, we're in a world now that people are skeptical. Okay. People are very skeptical. So we have to get past that skepticism. So and this, you see this on Facebook all the time. I mean, many of you that are doing Facebook advertising, you're getting all kinds of leads, but they're not responding to messages. They don't respond to calls. They don't answer your calls. They don't show up, or they book an appointment, don't show up. So it's really important that we have this, and we train staff as well to have this notion of compassionate aggression. Okay, compassionate aggression. It has to be compassionately aggressive. And we used to use that term all the time, in the fact that they have to take charge. These people want help, but in other words, they don't know how to get help, or they're afraid of what might happen. They're afraid of being taken. They've had a bad experience in the past. There's all these things that stop them from taking the next steps. So it's really important to train as a team on identifying these things. First of all, the realization that that's how people are thinking, and getting past that. So we have to get past that general skepticism. The second thing is creating urgency. When the team is calling that person, this, like, let's make sure that the team understands the person that's on the phone making the first contact with this lead, with this referral, with this person from your Lunch and Learn, whatever it is, that they're taking this very seriously. This is an urgent problem. This isn't 911 thing. This is an emergency. So we got to get this person in as soon as possible. So if you're allowing people to book, over a week, 2 weeks, or that far in advance, whatever their excuse is, we have to overcome that. So even asking the fact, like, let's say, okay, well, I've got availability tomorrow. I've got availability on Saturday morning. I've got availability Monday, whatever that is, the next soonest appointment. Oh, I can't make it, the person says. The next thing I'm going to ask my staff to say is that, okay, if a cancellation comes up later today or first thing tomorrow, would that work for you? So I'm immediately empowering my staff to provide urgency for that person, and even explaining that this obviously sounds like an urgent situation. It's been going on for a long time. You're telling me you can't drive, you can't work, you're suffering from these problems. Let's get you in as soon as possible. I'll try to make room for you. Would that work for you? So again, empowering your staff to have that authority to do that, that's all part of the process that's going to get them to close. Okay. Anybody have any questions, any comments so far? I want to give you guys the time to chime in here.
The only thing I'll throw, just for you said it, but to anchor down on this for people, no one's coming to your office for their symptom. They're coming for it because it affects their life some way. And that's the piece you got to sort out. Otherwise, your show rates decrease, or something else more important comes up, or the pain goes away. That's what you got to make sure you're identifying, or more so, probably your team is identifying. And it starts the beginning of the relationship, as Colin's discussing.
So here's a few questions. You guys might want to write these down that you can train with your staff on, to have them ask, and give them an arsenal of questions that they are very familiar with to ask on the phone. So it becomes a conversation with the first patient, or with the new patient. And again, this is even before day one. So questions of, what have you done in the past for this problem, right? And maybe they say they've been to another chiropractor. Maybe they say they've been to physio, or they've taken medications. Okay, why hasn't that worked for you in the past? Okay, why hasn't that worked for you in the past? So asking them these questions to try to get to the root cause of the problem. And again, that's the next thing, is that Dr. Brian is really good at getting to the root cause of the problem. Have you thought about spending the time and the resources to get to the root cause of the problem, to get this problem corrected, rather than just mask these symptoms? Have you thought about that? These are empowering questions for your staff to be able to ask to that person, to again pre-qualify them. So they come in with a notion, Dr. Brian's going to get to the root cause of my problem. And yes, it might take me some time and some of my resources to get this thing corrected. So don't be afraid to empower your staff to ask these questions. And another question is, do you think getting this problem corrected will become a priority for you? Let's ask the elephant in the room questions. We want to know that. We want to know that before they come in. And then for that staff person, the front desk person, to make notes and say, this is my conversation with this person, and so when I get the form, or when I get those notes, I can say, okay, this person's really pre-qualified, or perhaps I've got to do a little more extra work here to try to get them to understand that this is a problem. We're going to get to the root cause of the problem, and it might take time. It's not a quick fix. And this especially applies, guys, for your Facebook and advertising leads, because you know they're coming in for a deal. You know they're coming in for a quick fix. They responded to an ad. So in other words, you were looking for them. They're not looking for you, right? So let's really have that mindset with our team. We're getting lots of leads from Facebook. They're not looking for us. They just responded to an ad. So we really have to take those extra steps to try to dive into their psyche. They have a problem. They just don't really realize that that problem is affecting their life yet. So asking the right questions can help them to start to realize that's the case. Okay. So then we go into standard operating procedures. So there's always these standard operating procedures of what we want to talk about on the call. So asking, like I said, asking those questions on the call or having a list of questions that your team can be empowered to ask on the call is, again, really important. And then off the call, the preparation is key. So in your huddles, this is where we need to spend extra time, is knowing exactly what new patients are coming in. And I would say in your huddles, we're not just talking about the new patients for the day, we're talking about the new patients for the entire week. Like, we're starting to prepare ourselves for the week. So Monday huddle, maybe make it a little longer to say, okay, this is what's booked the next 2 or 3 days. So you have a good understanding of what's happening, right? You have a good understanding of what's coming in. Really be prepared for these people coming in. Know what's going on, know what's affecting them, what's holding them back. Maybe understand the conversation they had with your front desk team after the front desk team has asked all those questions. Okay. BAM fam. BAM fam is book a meeting from a meeting. And here's another interesting thing that maybe some of you guys are doing, maybe some of you are not. I'm quite certain many of you are not. And this is a really good one too, is that book a meeting from a meeting. So when the front desk person is talking to that new lead, that new patient, typically what happens is that they book that new patient appointment. Well, how about we empower them to say, okay, let's have a little more of a conversation and say, okay, what happens after your new patient appointment? And this might be the first contact. That's great. We want to get you scheduled for your first new patient appointment. Dr. Brian's going to do a complete neurological exam. He may decide to take x-rays, and he'll make some recommendations as far as what the next step is. He'll probably want to see you the next time to talk about what he found on that first day and then decide where we need to go from there. Would you like to go ahead and book your second appointment at this time as well? So not only are you booking day one, you're actually booking day two. Again, this helps the closing rates. You're preparing that person for what's coming. There's no surprises in the office. Keep in mind, the more you can pre-frame what's happening in that person's mind and have the conversation and encourage them to take the steps to get there, the better the closing rate's going to be in the end. Don't take rejection personally, right? We always say, and we used to say this with our team, is that we're one no away from a yes. So it doesn't matter how many calls you make. You might get no, 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 and then finally you get a yes. But every no is the next step away from a yes. So never take rejection personally. And the other thing is that people generally have this need, this desire to help other people. So asking them who they know that could benefit from our services as well. And this can happen even before the new patient appointment. And again, great empowering question for your team. Fantastic. Steve, I've got you booked for your new patient appointment with Dr. Brian on Thursday morning at 10 a.m. He's going to go over a thorough exam with you, check your spine, check your nervous system. He may decide to take x-rays. Is there anybody that you know that could also benefit from coming in here and having this type of examination? Is there somebody in your family or somebody perhaps at work that's also having some health concerns? We're on a mission to save lives. Having that conversation with your team and empowering them to ask that question right off the bat, again, then you're planting the seed for referrals and planting the seed in the mind of those people that this is not just about them. This is about getting people around them better as well. Okay, so don't be afraid to do that. Anything else? You guys have any comments, any questions so far? I know I was communicating with Justine earlier. She's got some stuff to add, and we'll get through a few more things. And then she's got some great experiences she wants to share with you guys as well. Always be prepping research for the call. So again, if our training is front desk person as the investigator, if our front desk person can kind of be the detective and finding out as much about this person as possible, what's holding them back, what's affecting their life, how severe is this problem, what is their situation, what have they done in the past, why hasn't it worked, why do they still have the problem, all these things that come up, the more that we can do and go into the new patient exam or the day one exam with that in our arsenal, again, that gives us power. It gives us authority. It gives us, it's going to give us a great opportunity to have a good relationship with that person because then they know we're prepared. And that builds trust. Remember, if these people are coming in with a level of skepticism, the more that we can gain and earn their trust in the beginning, the better the close rate's going to be down the road. Okay. We know, and all of you, we've all gone over our day one, day two scripting. And this is something I would share with you guys is that you can't practice that scripting enough. And here's why. Not because uh, you can gain the ability of practicing it and rehearsing it without having to look at the script or it comes out very naturally all the time. The reason you want to know the scripting so well is so you can then get to the level of not using the scripting at all. Well, what does that mean? Well, when you know the process of the scripting so well, then you can ask questions to the person that will keep them in line with that scripting. If you understand what I'm saying, you can get to the point where you're asking questions to get the person to respond to exactly what you want them to know in the scripting. Okay. And this is huge because here's the mentality is that people believe what they say. Okay. People don't believe what you say. So you can sit and tell them how great chiropractic is and what you're going to do and all these services and all the people around you and all the patients in your office that have got great care in the past. You can tell them all that. Honestly, they're not going to believe you. I mean, they're not going to have I mean, maybe some of them will get a little bit of an understanding, but to really gain their trust and really gain their attention, if you ask the right questions and then are disciplined enough to just be quiet and allow them to think about the question and then answer before you dart back in, you're going to have a lot more success at that person being able to verbalize that response. And when they verbalize the response, they confirm it in their own mind and it becomes true to them because they've thought about it. They've had the opportunity to say it and admit a response that is right for them. So questions that are really empowering are, do you agree this is a problem? So if you go through somebody's exam findings or somebody's x-rays and then ask them, do you agree this is a problem? And wait for the person to say, yes, I agree this is a problem. Do you agree that if you just didn't do anything about this, that it would get worse? Yes, I agree. Okay. Do you agree that it's probably time to do something about this? Wait for the yes. And if you're asking these questions and getting yeses, again, these are steps towards the close. And you'll know when you start getting these confirmations and these questions, that's the time to ask for the close. That's the time to say, okay, are you ready to get started? And if you've done your proper due diligence and your day one and your day two and your doctor's report has given them enough information that they can make an informed decision by and then asking these questions afterwards, your closing rate's going to go through the roof. If you've gone over all the pricing and the objections and the time commitment and everything in your doctor's report and in your day one and day two, close becomes very easy, you know. And here's the mentality is you want people to feel like they've bought, like they've made the decision to buy your services as opposed to you selling them or you convincing them. That's the big difference. Okay. Huge difference there. Any thoughts?
I have a quick question.
Hi,
What were
Dr.
the,
Nikki.
hi, what were the three you said? Do you agree that this will get worse? Do you agree that, I'm sorry, you said, do you agree this is the problem? Do you agree that
Mhm.
this will get worse? And what was the third?
And do you agree that it's time to get to the root cause of this problem or get this problem corrected?
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. Here's the other thing. When we talk about listen more than you talk, ask the right questions, start asking questions that's going to get pattern interrupts are very important. And here's a good one. Typically, and I know you guys will recognize this and agree with this, is that you walk into the adjusting room or you walk into the adjusting bay or you walk up to the table. What's the first thing typically that we say to the patient? Hi, hi, Dr. Nikki, how are you? Right? So here's a great way to pattern interrupt. And we're programmed when somebody asks this question to, to say, well, doing pretty good. How are you? It seems to be a natural response, unless of course you have that person that really wants to tell you how they're doing, which comes up once in a while. But so start reframing these questions and say, hey, Dr. Nikki, tell me about your day. All of a sudden you've broken the pattern, right? It's a way to snap that person out of their automated thinking model. Tell me about your day. Oh, tell me about your day. So they actually have to think about something to respond that's logical to that question. And if you can start recognizing where you're asking automated response questions, like how are you doing, and start interrupting that pattern by putting in questions with, with some opportunities for them to think, then all of a sudden it's very different, right? You get very different responses. You get them thinking differently. So asking the right questions. Okay. So we talked about the script. So knowing that script really well, day one, day two script, knowing that script well is huge. Rehearse the script constantly. And here's the big thing. And I sent you guys a Marco on this recently, is that role playing is huge. And a lot of us have this kind of weird feeling about role playing, especially with our team. It's awkward, but I'm going to tell you, role playing is the best way to grow your office. If you and your staff meetings or your huddles can role play, like, I mean, you got a new patient coming in and your staff fills you in on this new patient, role play what you're going to say to them. Role play your day one with your staff. If it's an awkward situation or maybe it's an awkward new patient or there was some issue or whatnot, role play what you're going to ask, role play how it's going to go. It's a great way to kind of manage those objections and react in the moment. Okay. Really important for your staff. What are some of the most or the biggest objections that we get in our day one, day two, day three? What would you say? You guys chime in here. What are they?
Time and money.
Time and money, they're probably the two biggest. What else? Anything else?
My insurance won't cover it.
Yeah, insurance. So again, yeah, you're getting back to that money thing. Exactly. Circumstances. I mean, it could be. So I mean, let's just focus on the time and money thing. So those are elephant in the room questions, right? We know that people are thinking of them. A lot of people don't even come in for day one because of those objections. So again, empowering your staff to ask the right questions through this process or being able to ask the right questions before it comes up as an objection. I mean, maybe that's something you implement on day two to say, are you concerned about the time that this is going to take to commit? So initially, you're pre-framing them, in their mind that this is not a quick fix thing. Are you concerned? Have you thought about the amount of time this is going to take for this problem to get corrected? You've already gone through your day two. I'm really concerned about what's going on. It's worse than what I thought. You do have subluxation. It's affecting your nerves. My concern is not only causing the pain that you're having, it's also affecting nerves going to those organs. This is a serious problem. Have you thought about the commitment it's going to take and the time it's going to take to get this problem corrected, to get to the root cause of this problem. Ask the tough questions, you know, and then you're going to have those difficult conversations before you go over the care plan. And then they go, well, how much does it cost? Oh, I need to think about it. So you're managing the objections before they come. Have you thought about what you'd be willing to spend as far as your own finances to get this problem corrected? Bring it up. Don't be afraid to bring it up. This always helps the close. Okay, so ask the hard questions. The other thing is to use tonality, and don't be afraid to use humor to diffuse situations. And I used to do this all the time. This was actually one of my go-to things, and maybe it just diffused the awkward situations of people that would say, "Oh my gosh, that's a lot of money," or "Oh my gosh, I don't know if I can afford that." And I would typically, sometimes I would chuckle and say, "Come on, you got a car and you got a cell phone. I mean, anybody who's got a car and a cell phone, it's just a priority thing. We can all afford this." And I would kind of chuckle it off, and then they would chuckle it off, and it would be an awkward situation, and we would get right past it. So don't be afraid to diffuse those awkward situations with a little bit of humor. People who have cars, people who have cell phones can afford chiropractic care. Okay. We all, you know, it's not too many people that come into your office without, even if they're on disability. I mean, we used to have people coming in on disability with a cell phone. And that would be my, you know, my thing. Well, I'm on disability. Well, you've got a cell phone. So if you got a cell phone, you can afford chiropractic care. Okay. And sure, we would make an agreement with them, but we'd still get them to commit under some sort of regular payment plan. So don't be afraid to do that. So ask the hard questions, bring up these awkward things before they become a problem. Here's another question. And again, you could probably write this down. Somebody who might be on the fence and, you know, they're maybe, you know, maybe I need to think about it, or, oh, I'm not sure, or, oh, my spouse couldn't make it, but I need to ask my spouse. One of the great questions could be, what are you afraid of happening? What is your biggest fear in committing to do this? Are they afraid it won't work? Are they afraid of spending the money? Are they afraid of committing to the time? What is the best case scenario? Are you afraid of getting better? Some people are actually afraid of letting go of that ball and chain that's been holding them back, and all of a sudden they become strong enough or healthy enough to go back to work, or they become strong enough or healthy enough to engage in a relationship, or whatever that may be. Some people have a fear of that. So again, asking these awkward and tough questions can bridge the relationship and get rid of the elephant in the room, you know, or we call them kill the zombies. Ask the tough questions, kill the zombies. Anything else? I want to take a little break and give you guys a chance to chime in here.
Well, sometimes they just don't value the care. They don't see it as a problem as big as we do, and they don't think that we're going to help them.
Yep. Here's the thing, and this is again sales techniques. When you look at the sales triangle, at the top of the very top of the sales triangle, out of 100% of people that you come in contact with, so let's say 100% of your leads, 3%, and this could apply to any type of business, 3% are actually looking to buy. Okay, so out of 100%, 3% are looking to buy. They're ready to make a decision. In fact, they're ready to make a decision before they walk in the door. You know, they're coming in knowing they're going to start care, or they have some sort of idea of what they're getting into, right? So that's 3%. There's another 17% who are aware that they have a problem and want to do something about it, but they're uncertain about what that something is. So that's a big number of people that we can get to through our procedures to give them trust, to give them confidence that this is the right place and this is the right decision for them. But there's another 20% who are aware they have a problem, but are not ready to do something about it. And this is a huge amount of the population that's going to come into your office, that if we can ask the right questions, we start to bring the awareness of that problem into the forefront of their mind and help them to realize that I can't keep putting this off. I can't wait. I need to get some help with this problem. So that's, again, a really important thing to start to ask by asking the right questions. And again, role playing with your team, empowering them to ask the right questions to that person. See, the thing is, Guys, you know, your front desk person is your most important person in your office because they are, if you're thinking of yourself as having some sort of a business where you have a sales manager, that is your sales manager. They're the person that's going to start bridging relationships, start diving in, getting a deep dive into that person's psychological stance, their psychological state, and helping that person to start to think about why they're coming into your office and making the right decisions as they come into your office. So having these conversations and going over these questions with your front desk person or even writing them out and training on them so that front desk person can have that arsenal of questions is so vital, you know. And not only are they going to help people to get into that state where they're ready to buy and ready to make a decision, they're also going to have a better opportunity to weed people out who just are honestly not interested. They're not looking for services, they're not looking for your help, or they're unwilling to pay money out of their pocket, or just not willing to come for chiropractic care. Okay. And that's again really, really important because I think it's important to get people to commit to chiropractic care, but it's also important to help people to understand that this might not be the right place for them. And I think the more that we can take that stance, the more of a dream practice we're going to create, the better people we're going to create to fill our office. Okay. Yeah, do you agree there's a problem? Do you agree this needs attention? Do you agree it's going to get worse? So these are questions to ask. Do you agree it's going to get worse? And are you ready to get started with your care? And that's a great question because then you're getting them to commit. Are you ready to start with your care? Yes, I'm ready to start with my care. Okay, fantastic. Here's what you have to do. So, and I wouldn't ask that, are you ready to start care until you know that you've overcome all those objections with the proper questioning. I left that Marco yesterday about the difference between the dog, the horse, and the tiger. And here's the thinking is that, you know, and for those of you who didn't see that, there's three levels of chiropractors. And I would say that the lowest level of chiropractor is the dog. The dog needs to be cared for all the time. The dog needs to be fed. The dog will kind of, you know, sit around. If you left a dog alone in the wild, the dog could not survive. You know, they would end up dying because they're domesticated. They need help. So many chiropractors in that state, they're not willing to go out there. They're not willing to ask the hard questions. They're not willing to go and literally grab people by the hand and say, this is, you know, I'm changing your life. I'm taking over here. Then there's the horse. The horse is the type of chiropractor that says, okay, yeah, you know what? I will do it, but I'll do it when I'm kicked. Or I have seasons where I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to push hard for the next 2 or 3 months, or I'm getting coached and yeah, you know, I'm going to show some accountability when the coach is kicking me like riding a horse. The horse responds, gets into a gallop. But when you stop kicking the horse, it goes back to a trot. And many of us are in that stage where our practice, you know, we grow a little bit and then, gosh, we get to a state of growth. And then whether we sabotage ourselves or whether we take a break or whether we have turmoil within and the numbers go back down. But then there's the tiger, and the tiger is relentless. And if you understand tigers, they're inbred to kill. I mean, they're breeding inside. I shouldn't say inbred. That's maybe the wrong term, but they're bred to kill. So they just have this instinct of killing, and they'll go and kill a gazelle to eat the gazelle, and they'll their bellies will be full. They'll feed their family. They'll feed their children. They'll all be full. But then something crosses their path, like a rabbit or some other animal, and they'll go kill for the sport of it. And when you can get to that stage where you just know that there's people in your community that need your help, but don't even realize that they need your help. They're living lives taking medication. They're, you know, they're not thinking straight. They're having mental illness. They're having all kinds of physical ailments. They're having these relationship problems. They're having domestic violence in their home. There's all this stuff going on that is behind the scenes. And if they could only get into a different stage of life, if they could only be taught the principle of chiropractic, get into our office, then their lives would change and everybody's lives around them would change. If we can have that mentality as chiropractors and figure out how we're going to ask the right questions to act like the tiger and just be relentless, you know, we just are absolutely relentless with every single person we know. We say ABC, always be closing. Okay, so kill for sport, and never blame your circumstances. The last thing, we're always, and I hear this all the time. Oh, it's my town. I don't think this is going to work in my area. I've been attracting a whole bunch of low quality leads, and now that we're doing the marketing for people, you wouldn't believe how many times I hear that we're attracting a low quality leads. I think somebody said to me today, "Oh, our results are underwhelming." I thought, brother. So, so don't blame your circumstances, right? I had a call with a client who's in LA yesterday, and they'd had in the last month they'd had 60 leads, and they decided they're going to do all the phoning. So they don't have any automated messages. They have a staff member who's going to do all the phoning, and they were disappointed because they only had one person show up in their office. And I said, so we went over the procedures of what she does for her calls. And I'm going to tell you, it was a whole coaching call because she would phone and leave a message and expect that that lead was going to call right back. And so I gave her the example of the dog and the horse and the tiger. And she said, okay, yeah, she admitted, yeah, I haven't been diligent enough. And I said, we need to be compassionately aggressive. We are so blessed to have one of our CAs took charge of all of our leads, and she would literally take a daily list home with her. And I'm telling you the truth here, she would call between 9 and 10 at night. And when you get a call at 9 or 9:30, 9:45 at night, it's like, who the heck is calling me at this hour? And she would typically get answers at that time. And she'd say, hey, I'm really concerned. This is Diana from Dr. Collins' office. Um, he was concerned that he hadn't heard from you yet and wants to make sure that we arrange time to get you into the office to get checked. And she was fantastic at getting people into the office as a result of that. So she was the tiger, she was relentless. So don't be afraid to change and interrupt the pattern. Call it 7:15 in the morning, call it 9:45 at night. That's when people are going to answer. Don't be afraid to empower your team to do that. All right. So Justine, you had some cool experiences you wanted to share.
I did. Great call, by the way. I got a couple pages of good notes and definitely will be bringing some of these questions to my team and even for just for myself to do better. So I loved it. Certainly one of the questions just on that day 0 phone call, is this for you and your family right away? And is this a wellness spinal care appointment, or is there a specific concern? Just to really plant the seed that we do wellness care, and it doesn't have to be for pain, so that plants a seed when asking for referrals later. And as you're doing the doctor's report, another question to ask was, wouldn't you wanted to know this sooner? And wouldn't it have been great somebody told you this sooner, but you now have the information so you can help others. And I know that that's the kind of caring person you are, that you truly care about others and you want to make a difference. And now you have that ability. But I thought this was awesome. And what I wanted to share was, being on holidays, I usually try to visit different chiropractic offices. So this time, and my goal has always been maybe 2 or 3 a year at the very beginning, maybe 20 a year. But this time, I'm now trying to get to 6 a year to improve myself. And so I went to Calgary and I got to visit Dr. Steven Zewart's office. And I just wanted to share some of the things that I learned there. And we don't have to visit an office that sees more patients than we do. Every single one of us have gifts to learn from. And if you know Steven, you'll know that he and I have very different personalities. And yet there was so much in that office that I came out stronger, better, and I'm going to improve my own office from visiting his office. So again, Steven, I was so grateful for my time in your office. And just his gentle patience is something that maybe I can overpower people or go too fast or make assumptions too quickly, speak too quickly. I definitely saw it when I was watching and spending the time, not just going in and looking at the office, but actually spending the time listening to how he communicated with patients. I could see that he really had their eyes on them. He could make sure that they were focused on them. He used a great opportunity of pauses that I could learn from. The other thing that I learned from was on his vibe plates. This is his tech CA, I believe, who came up with this, which was awesome, about encouraging when people are on the vibe plate, or even if they're tractioning, to use that time to meditate or repeat an affirmation. And so they put a list of affirmations right in front of the vibe plate, so that this is not time to be on their phone, not time to be begrudging that they're doing exercises, but this is really hitting that max mind, and that's the 5 essentials. And we often don't get that first essential of max mind or spirit. So to use that time of prayer, meditation, or affirmations, I thought it was a great idea for the vibe plate and for the tractioning. And then there was a lot for me to learn on the day 4s. I honestly maybe egotistically thought we were doing well with our day 4s, and I learned that I can do a lot better. So here were some of the things that maybe the rest of you could learn from Dr. Stephen as well. Making sure he used the Max Living pamphlet from Knowledge Base, I believe, and I haven't been using that pamphlet, so but I am using a sheet that introduces the other doctors. So introduces my locum doctors, introduces my adjusting doctor. So right away, they're getting to meet them. They get a sheet in their doctor's report, and then again, a review of the laminated sheet on their day 4. So they're not surprised if I'm away that there's another doctor. And then to talk about if you're sick right away in day 4. So we would address sick once they called in when they were sick, that they need to get in right away, but to be planting the seed ahead of time. So if you're sick, make sure you get an extra adjustment. And don't worry, I'm not going to get sick, because a lot of time patients are worried about the doctor, so they don't want to, or the staff, and they don't want to come in. So to have that conversation on day 4, that if you're sick, get an extra adjustment, not to worry if the doctor's getting sick. I take care of my temple. I will be fine. I never get sick. And if you do want a private room in our office, because we're more T-bar, just let the staff know. And then number 2 was, if you are having a holidays or a special event, or you're going away, or you have to miss unexpectedly, definitely call the office, because you want the best results. We want to make sure you are on track and getting the best results. Let's create that makeup ahead of time, or right away in the same week. So addressing any potential missed appointments in a positive way. We do have the office policies that they sign on day 4 that talks about missed appointment fees, but this was really addressing the holidays before they have the holidays, to make sure that, in our case, we have many people that leave for a month. They go to India for a month. So we want to really manage that, so they're not stopping because they've gone away for a month. So I thought that was really, really good in dealing with the positivity of staying on track, getting those makeups before and after they are away. Another one that he talked about is, if there's a new injury or a new concern, let the front desk know in advance, so we can reserve extra time. We might have to schedule it at a different time, but the doctor absolutely cares. And this would stop, that, oh, I just hurt my knee, or I just hurt my ankle, or whatever just got in a car accident. Trying on day 4 to make sure we're proactive, planting the seed. They call the office in advance to planning that time. He did a great job of, after the adjustment, you could be achy. This is new. It could be like your muscles, so extra water or ice or heat. But making sure they know that that's can be at times part of the process, so they're not surprised and want to quit because they have a sore muscle. Or let's face it, once in a while we have a patient, has nothing to do with their adjustments, but they start tractioning too hard and they get a headache and they blame it on chiropractic, and then they want to quit. So this doesn't happen often, but it's definitely important in that day 4, I think, to addressing the potential of achiness following adjustment. And then lastly, his personal cell phone. We do care about you, and we want to make sure if there's any emergencies, here's your cell phone number. So addressing those concerns on day 4, I thought was awesome. He did on progress exams. I always lead my programs with something new, some new exercise, something that they can do more of, something that's next. But I loved Dr. Stevens' wording, whereas I'm proud of you. Look how much you've done. I'm proud that you've made your health a priority, that you've stayed on track. I thought that was awesome. And he used the specific term that you know what, this health is a journey, not as a destination. Health is a journey, not as a destination. You're doing great. You're on the right journey. You're on the right path. And I'm alongside here with you. So I thought that was awesome from Dr. Stevens' office, where I really just spent a whole day, afternoon observing, and I encourage others. One of the things that I purposely tried to do when I was observing or consciously was complimenting the doctor to his patients, how grateful I was to observe, how I thought he was a phenomenal leader. And then also complimenting the doctor to his staff and making sure his staff knew that I was there because I believed I could learn something and that he was an excellent leader. By talking to his staff, I realized some of the things that they said they may not have said about me in my own office. So it was humbling, but that the comments that they said about Dr. Stephen was that he was so patient and kind with their learning, that he accepted for them to make mistakes. And I think I'm pretty good with my team making mistakes, but patience is probably not something my forte. So that was humbling as well, and great to hear from his staff. I also went to observe Dr. Ryan Sousley, both offices in Idaho. My daughter's starting to work there. They are beautiful offices. And I find looking in different offices and taking pictures of things I like helps me grow the office as well. And but I didn't learn as much in Dr. Ryan's offices because I didn't stay for a shift observing. It's not the same as walking in and talking to the doctors for half an hour as actually watching them in action. But I did learn something that I really, really liked. His several things I liked. His number system. Mine's a laminated number system for patients to know next. He had like hard plastic numbers with quotes from BJ or health quotes on them. Mine have health quotes on them as well, but his was just better quality than mine. And it kind of, it shows that you want quality in everything. Quality, his handouts on the wall were better quality. Everything kind of, posters on the wall were high-end professionalism, whereas mine are an 8.5 by 11, printed in color, but his were, I don't know, like 2.5 feet by 3 feet behind a glass cabinet. So they did look more professional than mine. He had more of a minimalist look, which also was very welcoming, which was great. And a way for his staff to kind of hide their paperwork and hide their stuff. So it looked very clean and neat. And on the doctor side, we use a sticky system where the kinesiologist can tell me when I need to go to see a new patient. But they had a earphone set. So in the past, I used to have pagers, or I have a alarm on the doorbell system. He actually had almost like earpods in. So the doctors had one earpod, so the front desk or exam tech could tell them when to go where. And it just looked very professional. And it allowed communication. For them, it was a one-way communication, staff to doctor, not doctor to staff. But it was, it improved their function and their flow. So in the past, people have had pagers, or they've had intercom systems, stickies, but I thought it would be something to share with the team and how they deal with their flow. And then last point is, my daughter is preceptoring from Dr. Ryan Sousley, and he just had a really good outline for training. And it made me say, okay, let me look back at my training outline for new staff members, not just your playbook, not just your, front desk playbook, your back end exam tech playbook, but what's a simple list of everything you expect them to learn. Ours, I had a list, but it wasn't week by week. Week 1, this is the expectation. Week 2, this is the expectation. So at the end of 6 weeks, they knew exactly what they were expected to learn rather than a full list. So our list had what to expect to learn, what you observed first, and then what you know and can do as second, as a checklist. And they submit it to me. First, it's posted on the wall, and then they submit it to me. Here, it was better week by week. So I just wanted to share with everybody, observing other doctors. It doesn't matter their volume. It doesn't matter where they're located. It doesn't matter if they're in Canada or the US or the same province. There's just so much to learn, and to humble ourselves to be better.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Dr. Stephen, you made a big impact. Way to go. It's great.
Yes, thank
Good job,
you.
you guys. Anybody else have anything you
Also,
want
I
to
have
add?
to say a big learning piece there too. Like, this is coming from Justine, who's accomplished so much, and just talking about, again, that constant never ending improvement, going and seeing there's always something we can all learn. It's just, it's not getting comfortable. It's always like we're okay, but if I'm going to get better, if I'm going to enjoy more, make a bigger impact, like, these are the things we got to do.